If you had an hour to solve a problem, spend 50 minutes thinking of the right questions to ask. And, 10 minutes you'll ask the right questions and solve the problem.
I see a nice little bookshelf in your background. What's one book that you would love for me to read?
There's so many. One of my favorite books on that shelf, I've got a couple. One is called Ask More, which was written by a journalist who talks about, how that approach of journalism applies to businesses. And it definitely matters to us, right? Because I think the only way that you get good information out of any organization that you're looking to consult with is by asking the right questions. Right? If you had an hour to solve a problem, spend 50 minutes thinking of the right questions to ask. And, 10 minutes you'll ask the right questions and solve the problem. So that's a big one. Also love the Growth Gears, written by Pete Hayes. Another great book on, thinking about how to formulate your go-to-market strategy. Right, of building processes within that. Another book that I really love. And a lot of it started with a book called Predictable Revenue that I read about 20 years ago. And the concept of how you can build a machine to drive predictable revenue is what set me on this path.
Yeah, you've piqued my interest. How does that hold up throughout the years?
I think it's held up well across the years. It was originally written by a guy named Aaron Ross, who was a Salesforce consultant at that time. And this is long before HubSpot was a full-fledged CRM. But that concept of how to organize data and how to organize processes and how to organize things that can be measured and that are repeatable so that an organization can learn from what they're doing and iterate was probably the most valuable lesson I think that any company can take, right? Whatever you think you are, whatever process you think you have is going to change over time as your clients change, as technology changes, and as the market changes. And so for you to be able to build a machine that you can measure and then make the iterations and changes where they need to at the right times and right places, keeps that organization scaling and growing. So I think that book has held up well over time.